Hello, hello. All right, here we go. Now we are going to combine the two. But we've already been kind of combining the two because we talked about in that last lesson how we could turn subtraction into addition. Okay. So this means you're going to be doing ALEKS 3.5, which also means you should be careful because that means you're coming up on a quiz, which means you're going to do the quiz review and then you're going to have a quiz. Okay. Again, we talked about that you're not going to do the final review as maybe as something else, but it's not going to be a test. Okay. All right, guys. So here we go. Let's do this. This is not. Let me just remind you. Subtraction's the hardest beast of this chapter. So make sure you're asking me questions. If you don't understand it, it's going to be the reason why you don't pass. So make sure, because if you don't want to spend lots of time with me at cave time, after school, before school, doing reworks, making that up, you got to make sure you ask me questions in class. You got to make sure you care, that you want to know how to do this, because we're going to expect you to do this. Because you have to be able to do this to be successful next year, year after, for your next 5 years of math. You don't have to like it, but you got to be good at it. So make sure you're asking questions. So let's go through a summary here that hopefully we've already done in class. But let's look. When we're adding, right? When we add a number, when we add 5, we go which way? When we add 5. Okay, so we go to the right when we add 5. When we add a negative 5, which way do we go then? Which way do we go when we add a negative 5? Okay, we go to the left when we add a negative 5. Then we talked about subtraction, right? And if we subtract positive 5, which way do we go? Doesn't matter what number we start on. What way do we go when we subtract a positive 5? Think about it, write it in. So if we subtract a positive 5, we go this way, right? This is the same thing as subtracting a positive 5, right? So when we subtract a negative 5, which way do we go? Yeah, because if we're subtracting positive 5, we go to the left. Then when we subtract negative 5, we must go this to the right. Okay, you want to remember this. If I've taught you, I keep teaching you things that if I were you, I would put these on the top of your paper when you're doing the work. This is huge that you understand. Okay? Because what we're going to talk about is that if we take negative 8 plus 5, we're good, right? We just look up here, we say we're starting at negative 8, and we go to the right 5. If that's negative 8, 0 is 8 away, means we landed on negative 3. And if you needed to, you could just count it. I'm going to go this way. That's negative 7, negative 6, negative 5, negative 4. Okay, as we go to the right, it just keeps getting more and more positive. We land at negative 3. And we were adding 5. To get to 0, we would have had to add 8. Because the absolute value of negative 8 is 8, because it is 8 away from 0. And all we did was add 5. So we didn't get to 0. So it stayed negative. Okay? So no, I'm just going to move this down again, because I want this as your constant reference. So you keep thinking about this. Again, remember, this is the number where we start at. So we're going to start at 2. And we're going to add negative 7. So which way do we go when we add a negative? When we add a negative, we go to the left. So we're going to go to the left 7. Now, I keep referencing the fact that 0 is over here. We went past 0, right? So we're going to land at -5. So 2 plus -7 equals -5, right? Now remember, you're learning how to draw this and how to come up with a solution. Both are requisite, okay? So again, we start at -3. So we just put over here -3, and we're going to subtract -1. Well, when I subtract a negative, that's this one right here. So that means I'm going to the right. So if I'm going to the right -1, I'm just going to the right 1, right? This is minus -1. I'm going to land at -2. Because 0, remember, is over here, 3 away from -3. Because the absolute value of -3 is 3. Because -3 is 0, is 3 away from 0. Okay? Okay, so here we see we can start at a negative and add 5. We go to the right. We start with a positive, add a -7. We go to the left. We start at a negative and we subtract -1. We go to the right. That's the hard part to remember. Okay, so let's do these 4. Let's see how you do with these. Draw the number line. I'm going to put the numbers in. You draw the number lines and see if you can draw them. Okay, you draw these 3. See if you can draw them. Look at your previous notes. Look at stuff from 3.3. Look at 3.4. Okay, hit pause. Do your best. Okay, so when we subtract a -5, we're going to go up 5, which means we're going to land on 14. When we subtract 4 from 1, we're going to go down 4, which means we're going to land on -3. When we subtract an 8, we're going to go down, which means we're going to land at -20. So -12 minus 8 equals -20. -9 minus 4 equals -1 minus 4 equals -3. And 9 minus -5 equals positive 14. Okay, if you don't understand this, you got to circle the one you don't get, and you got to come to class with questions. Okay, that's your responsibility. If you want to learn this, if you want to do well on this quiz, you have to come prepared to ask questions. Okay, now draw the number lines for these. Remember, you're starting at 3, at -3, -31. Okay, good luck. Okay, so here we go. Again, I drew this out for you. I'm telling you, put that everywhere. Okay, put that stuff on everything. Okay, when you're doing this quiz, this is how you stay safe. I look and say, if I'm adding -5, I go to the left. If I'm going to go to the left 5, I wind up landing on -2. So 3 plus -5 equals -2. If I subtract a negative, here's subtracting a negative, I go to the right. So when I subtract -15, I go to the 3. I go to the right 15, which means I'm going to land at +12. If I'm adding +38, it doesn't matter where you start. If you add +38, you go to the right. Now I start at -31, means it takes 31 just to get to 0, right? That's how long it's going to take me just to get to 0. I'm going to go 7 more. So that's going to land on +7. Okay, so we know that -3 minus -15 equals +12. We know that 3 plus -5 equals -2. We know that -38 or -31 plus 38 equals +7. Okay, now you have to look at this and say, I don't get this. Circle it and let me explain it in class. Okay, so let's look at these two. These are really important. So I'm going to let you do some basic stuff with it. But let's say we had K over here and L's over here. And let's say we have G over here and H over here. Okay? So you got to tell me the distance between these. Okay? They want to know the distance between those, or what's the difference between these two numbers. Okay? So look right now and see if you can figure out how far apart are K and L, how far apart are G and H. Okay, go. Hit pause, try it out. Okay, so hopefully you looked at this and you said, okay, I'm going to find a distance. You should have come up with this is a distance of 13, right? They're 13 spaces apart from each other, and G and H are 6 apart from each other. Find the distance between 7 and -10. Go. I don't care which number line you use. Go find the distance between 7 and -10. Okay, and you should have come up with it at 17, right? Okay, so I'm going to teach you a rule here. And this is going to help you because when we're trying to find the difference between two numbers, we're trying to find the distance between the two numbers. And distance is always going to be the biggest minus the smallest. Okay, now you want to be careful on this. Okay, you always want the biggest minus the smallest. So if you probably counted, right? You can't count everything. So the biggest on this one is L, which is 7. So L minus K, which is going to be 7 minus -6. And we can rewrite that as 7 plus +6, right? Which means 13. Between G and H, biggest minus smallest, the one furthest to the right is the biggest. So we'd have H minus G. which means we have -4 minus -10, which means we're going to rewrite that as -4, and then we're going to add the opposite. So we get -4 plus 10, which is +6. See? And so we got there. You counted the spaces, but this is how you do it mathematically. Biggest minus smallest. Okay, between 7 and -10, which one's furthest on the right? 7, right? So we'd have 7 minus -10. And if we do what we've been talking about, we're going to change this to addition, and we're going to use the inverse operation with the operational inverse. So that's going to be 7 plus +10, which is going to be 17. The distance between 7 and -10 is 17, because we took the biggest minus the smallest. Okay, that's it today. Okay, good luck. Have fun with this. This is hard. If you're struggling with this is hard. You're about to learn how to do hard things. Good luck.